Hey, what is up guys? It is your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be going over the top 3 heroes for each role in Dota, going from position 1, the carry role, to all the way to position 5, hard support. I'm going to give you 3 heroes in each role I recommend you use in this current patch. And let's get into it. Alright, so starting off with the position 1 role, we have Alchemist. Now, I tweeted out that I thought this hero would become first pick, first ban, and I'd like to say first things first that I was correct, and second things second, that also in the offlane role, Alch is a great hero that you can consider picking. However, I removed him from the offlane role list to give a little diversity. Now, why is Alch good? Really, the main answer, besides the fact that, you know, Chemrage and Grievel's Greed and they're fine spells, they're good spells, there's nothing wrong with that. But Acid Spray, people were heavily underestimating Acid Spray. It really is the main core of the hero. 4 armor reduction at level 1 is frankly ridiculous. Most heroes don't have that much armor, and when you go negative armor in Dota, you go down a slippery slope of high damage and you get shredded even by an Alchemist. That is why you're seeing pro teams pick Alchemist with a stun and kill people. On top of that, I think Alchemist as a mid laner is ridiculously underused right now. The only reason why pro teams are shying away from it is they feel that if they put Alchemist mid, it might just get out-tempoed. For instance, the enemy mid laner with a lot of levels will kill their side lanes so often that the Alchemist mid won't be able to actually have any impact, even with a lot of farm, but I think there's ways to potentially draft around that. And so yeah, just keep your eye out for that as well. It's actually so good in pubs too. Next up on the list, we have Troll Warlord. I think this hero is just really solid right now. I think there's very little flaws with this hero. Sure, it can get kited by certain heroes such as Winter Wyvern. That matchup is freaking miserable for Troll. I actually cannot stand that matchup. That one's quite awful. Pugna can be pretty bad, but frankly, now that you have an Axe that dispels you and dispels enemies, it's not that bad. You know, Wyvern, you can't dispel his E or his ulti, but Pugna, you can just dispel him. Everything, which used to be a hard counter to Troll, now it's just not. So yeah, I think Troll, if you know how to play the hero, you know when to go Ags, when to go Battle Fury, right? When to farm, when to fight. The hero's good, it's just a little bit complicated. There's a lot of ins and outs to the hero in the laning stage. You're a lane dominator if you're really good at poking and not overextending. You can use Fervor, get solo kills if you play around it correctly. Just watch some Thompson replays. And yeah, that's why Troll's good. And then finally you have Ursa. Why? Because he counters Alch. Partially, but he is an Alch counter. But I think Ursa is just quite good against a lot of the meta offlaners right now. A lot of the tanky heroes such as Timber. He's pretty good against Timber. It's not a great matchup. It is solid mid-game, but in the lane, it's not even that bad for Timber, but it's same thing with Tide. You're pretty good against Tide mid-game, late-game, but in the lane, it's actually not that good, unless the Tide doesn't know what he's doing. Nonetheless, why do I like Ursa? He's a solid laner. You know, he's not the best, actually, ever since they reduced his armor by a lot and, you know, made his E much worse. But as long as you play passive until you're level, like, 3, level 5, you're gonna do fine. Take Overpower at level 2, by the way. I think it's criminally underrated how good it is. 13 mana to get 3 auto attacks at like maximum attack speed essentially is pretty insane. You really do shred denies, CS, opponents. It's really just very versatile as a spell. And I don't think people use it like that, but if you do, your lane becomes much easier. And then you flash farm, you buy Battle Fury and you flash farm. And that's Ursa. Now let's get into mid laners. We have Void Spirit. Just so reliable. This hero is, in my opinion, the most reliable hero in Dota. More reliable than Puck, more reliable than Ember, more reliable than reliable. It's just reliable. Why? Because its E is just like damage block. Okay. Ember, well, it's like, if I pick Ember and they can purge my Flame Guard, I don't block too much damage. But Void Spirit, the only thing that counters it is like a Dispel, but even then you have to cast your Dispel to purge it, which is like Oracle, I guess? You could say Wex Invoker, but meh, it's just meh. Like, you don't have Tornado at level 1, so this hero is just crazy good at level 1. It just makes any matchup fine, and then it has Dissimulate if you need to dodge certain spells, and it has nukes, and the most solo kill potential at level 1 of almost any hero in a side lane, right? It's so good at ganking. And so yeah, if you're just picking a hero, like first phase, no one wants to pick, you pick a mid laner, just pick Void Spirit. Then we have Invoker. I know, this is questionable, okay? But if you're an Invoker player, I think this is a great patch for the hero. I really do believe that Exhort Invoker is actually underrated right now, especially against players who aren't that good at like pressuring level 1 and winning level 1. which is frankly like only 1% of the Dota community really knows how to do it. I don't even know how to do it. Like, I'm not like the god of pressuring level 1 mid. I'm not like some crazy mid specialist. All I'm saying is that you get high damage, you make Forge Spirits, you win the lane if you have decent micro, you can even make Alacrity if you really are like crushing your lane. You can skip a point in Quas at level, whatever it is, 7, or even 3 or 4, you can skip Quas at 4. You take Wax and you make Alacrity, and it's like you just crush CS. And that's an option. In fact, that used to be a thing when Alacrity was broken at level 1. That was how you played the hero. You made Alacrity and you just denied everything and CS'd everything. And I think that version of Invoker with Forge Spirits is super legit right now, considering Quas and Exhort, once you have 4 points, you get 2 Forge Spirits, which means you farm fast, you fight quite well, so I think that build's quite legit. And if it's a bad game for Exhort, it's too greedy that game, it's not gonna win the lane, they have an Ember Spirit who you want to pressure, you can go Wax, and so you're quite a versatile hero. Then we have Storm and Puck, and I didn't want to like separate the two, but I think these are just both very good, high-tempo heroes. They play quite different, you know, Storm farms a little bit more than Puck does in most games, but they're just both good laners, good stats. If you want to make moves, I don't know, pick Void, Storm, Puck. Then let's get into offlaners. Now the best offlaner in the game is a GAMELEAP sub. Oh, yeah, this hero, oh my god, a 68% win rate, no, 69% win rate in the offlane right now. It absolutely takes it down any hero. Why? Because it just has infinite options. Once you get a GAMELEAP sub, you're just gonna know everything, so it doesn't even matter what hero you pick, you're just gonna win. Alright, next up on the list, we have ENIGMA. Buy a Necromonicon 3, summon some Eidolons, max the Eidolons, stun the person. You can even skill Midnight Pulse at level 2. I actually think it's legit. It's a 50 mana spell. You completely zone out people. It's like this massive acid spray. And you can chop down trees. So if you happen to be against Monkey King, wow. Now, but in all seriousness, I don't know. I just think this hero is like a very easy to play around offlaner. If you could play any roamer with it. It's really good at solo laning, so your roamer can go to your safe lane, your roamer can go to your mid lane, win those lanes. Enigma can solo lane really easily because he pulls the lane back. Then you buy this Necro 3, you completely scout in the entire jungle, you can solo kill almost any hero. I'm very serious about that. If you manage to black hole them with the Necro 3 and Eidolons, it just kills almost anybody. And so that's why I like Enigma. He just pressures so much of the map. He's really good at farming. He soaks up space, so he's a really good greedy hero in solo queue. And that's what you want in solo queue. You want to be greedy. You want to be able to do that type of thing. Now, let's get into Timber. I'm not even going to go too much over Timber. He's just so freaking good. He didn't get nerfed last patch. I don't know why. Who even knew there was a last patch? I didn't know. But Timber didn't get nerfed in it. He just didn't get nerfed. I don't know why, this hero was so good. Ever since they buffed the Chain got hard buffed at level 1, it's just so much faster, and your ulti used to have this crazy cast point where you'd have to like literally spin a Beyblade before you could throw his ulti. Now you don't have to do that. You just chuck it right away, it's so easy to hit, and then its Q is very value, it's just always a good spell, and you're really good at laning. What am I supposed to say? It just loses almost no lanes. Timber loses almost no lanes. You might be like, oh, but Monkey and Ursa. Not really. Slark, not really. It's actually playable if you're good at Timber and Chain for CS, and it's pretty okay, it's fine. And then in mid-game, you're actually kind of okay against those heroes. Like a Monkey, you can chop him down, you do a lot of magical damage even when he's in his ulti or Pier or whatever. It's just good. And then Tidehunter. You guys might have seen if you were watching my series against Byzantine Raiders who were banning Tide. I literally just can't stand Tide, dude. This hero's obnoxious. Gush is unplayable. You cannot play against Gush. It is the best spell in Dota. Acid Spray and Gush. The best spells in Dota. You cannot play against it. That is all I have to say. GG. Then we have position 4. Lion. I know, it's like, what? Lion? I thought this hero is like unusable. I don't know. I've come to the realization that Lion is really good against a lot of the spirits. The high tempo heroes of mid. You're good against them. Puck, Storm, Void, for instance, you know? And then in lane, I don't know, like, your hero's pretty good. It's got okay attack range. You spam the stun. The thing is, if you pick Lion and you don't pick it with like a hero that can trade a lot, you're gonna do nothing. You need to pick it in an active lane, such as Alk, or Tide, or Timber's actually okay. Timber. You need to pick it with a hero that puts a lot of pressure in lane, otherwise you'll do freaking nothing. But if you do put it with a hero that puts a lot of pressure in lane, you're stunned. You just chuck it out, chuck it out, chuck it out, chuck it out. It costs like no mana, it's a low cooldown, and it's a long stun. Nice! Then we have Mirana. I just think Mirana's reliable. I'm not even gonna go over it. Like, if you play Mirana, you arrow the range creep. you arrow large creeps, you do a bunch of nukes, your team's getting gone on in a pub, you pop your ulti, no one's carrying detection, and your entire team can't die. Then we have RUBIK! I don't know, Team Secret's picking it, so I'm just like, okay, what does Team Secret play that everyone should play? And the answer is RUBIK. I really think that the cast range on his E is super nice. You know, it makes his early game much, much better. In the early game, you used to have extra debuff, but honestly, you didn't even need the debuff amp early into the game, because all it would amp is your Q and your W. Then they put the debuff amp on your ulti, which is much better, because typically you'd want the debuff amp on, yeah, it's good on your Q, but primarily on what you stole, right? That's what you would want. You would want on the spell that you steal. So now you get it with your ulti, and it's much better that way. It's just much, much better that way. And then you have early game cast range. It makes your positioning 10 times easier. And so honestly, also you can place wards with it, by the way. You can place wards and use items from much further away, which is a huge buff, right? Just keep that in mind. Like, you can ward cliffs from so far away. You might be saying, Speed, like, are you serious? Does that matter? Yeah. In mid to late game fights, being able to get down a deep ward on a deep hill can be absolutely game-changing. Completely game-changing. Completely game-changing. So just keep that in mind. And then finally, I know this is a, you know, not a third hero, but honestly, so many of the roamers are fine. They're just fine. I think Spirit Breaker's fine. Clock's fine. Tusk is fine. I think the best out of all the roamers right now is Earth Spirit, if I had to give my own personal opinion. And so, yeah, I guess learn Earth Spirit. And finally, for position 5, number 1 is Ancient Apparition. This hero is so underrated in my opinion. I really believe it is like the most underrated hero in Dota. And everyone is right now is thinking, Speed, yeah, it's really good if it's against Elk, right? I think you could pick AA without knowing any of the enemy heroes, and it's totally good. And that sounds crazy, right? Because everyone looks at AA as this, like, bot hero that is completely useless unless it's ending heals. But that's just not the case. AA is totally great regardless, because its ultimate is a 40-second cooldown solo kill ability. It actually just makes no hero be able... If you get AA blasted, you actually cannot fight at level 1, right? The damage on this spell at level 1 is 250, okay? That is a maxed out nuke for most heroes, 250 damage. And then it also does tick damage for 10 seconds, so it does 12.5 damage per second for 10 seconds, which is another 125 damage, right? So you get that as well, so it does 375 damage, and it also makes it where if you're below 12% HP, you die! So it does like 500 damage. Lion's Finger does like 500 damage. In fact, it can be more than that. If the hero's tanky, it's much more than 500 damage if they snap. Lion's Finger, sure, it's point target. AA Blast is not really that hard to land. Lion's Finger is like, what, an 160-second cooldown. It's 4 times the cooldown for like the same damage. That is ridiculous if you put it in perspective. Ice Blast is a ridiculous spell. By the way, it's AoE, if I didn't have to mention. But as long as you have a +1 hero, it's so good. And then keep in mind, you have a spell that amps that damage. 1 point in Ice Vortex is 15% more damage. 15% of 375, I'm not gonna try to do the math, but I can tell you it's around 50. It's around 50. That's my calculation. That's insane. I know I'm like saying, oh, it's insane. But then your E also does damage. Your Q also does damage. You have 4 spells that do so much damage. And I think I've spent the most time in this video on AA, but I'm very passionate about this hero. Sure, its biggest weakness is its laning. However, Chilling Touch is a great spell to secure range creeps. It gives you bonus attack range and some extra damage. You secure range creeps with it, and you pick a safe laner that can play defensive. Play defensive. Just play defensive with the AA in the lane. Let him get XP. Don't go too aggressive until later on into the lane. And just let him sap some XP. Let him pull. Go pull. And only trade with the position 4. You have good attack range. You can trade no problem with the position 4 around your Chilling Touch cooldown. So do that. And I think this hero is like, if you can learn to play high tempo and synergize +1 with your mid laner, like run around with your mid laner or your off laner, you just decimate everybody. Now we have Crystal Maiden. I think she's just a great laner. Having 2 nukes at level 2 is pretty insane. The amount of damage and kill threat CM has at level 2 is, I would almost say, bar none. Like, the amount of damage she provides and control she provides at level 2, and even just auto attack lockdown. You literally cannot auto attack against CM at level 2. It is insane. So I'm a big fan of that hero for really that. I think she's just such a great laner. Her aura is fine. Her ultimate is actually, it's quite good, because if you go on a CM and she ulties, you have two options. Tank it and try to kill her through it, where she has like 20 armor and barely dies. And then the second option is to cancel it, but then you're using a spell, a nuke, a stun, which you would typically want to use on a core to cancel a CM ulti, which is really not that value. And so there's like a ton of potential in CM ulti. And finally, last but not least, is Ench, because Ench is good with Alchemist in lane. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see ya in the next one, and get your GameLeap sub. We're currently making sure that you guys get the best content of all time. Nah, I'm just making some good stuff. I have a lot of videos coming up. I'm going to be reviewing a lot of the top pro DPC games that just finished, seeing why certain teams made it onto the major and why some didn't, giving full breakdowns of multiple different heroes. There's also tons of courses up to date to the current meta that you need to go see there right now. So click the link down below. I'll see you guys there, and I'm out. Peace.